Thank you for joining me on how to turn your side hustle into your full-time income. I did it 16 and a half years ago when I quit my full-time job, and you can do it too. Over 2 million sellers make a part or full-time living selling on eBay. I've sold over $2.5 million worth, and I'm working on that third million. A few years ago, after my husband and I got married and I got a full-time job working at a Fortune 500 company, we bought a house in the Bay Area in California, and I was making a lot of money. I was working 11-hour days, totally strung out on stress. And my husband and I had a talk like, this is not good for our family life. How can we build a family like this? And we decided that our home life was more important than the money. It was a close one, but I quit that job without anything else lined up. And while I didn't have to be at a job 11 hours a day, I started clearing out things that we weren't using in the house. So his grandmother's platters that he inherited that we weren't using. I had jewelry that was pre-Arlie. My husband's name was Arlie. And I didn't want to wear jewelry that he didn't get me. So I thought I'll just put it on eBay. And I had never been on eBay before. So I started listing things and they were selling. And my husband came home from work one day and he said, oh, a gal wants to know what you would charge to sell her Coach purses for her. So I Googled, what do you charge to sell for somebody on consignment on eBay? And I found a 380-page ebook. I read the whole thing. I did everything it said. And I had like 6 weeks of commissions coming in from my previous job. So I thought, I have got 6 weeks to see if I can make enough money for the house payment. And then I don't have to get another job. So that was in February of 2006, and I never had to get another job. What we're going to talk about today is how to set up your business the right way, create a plan, and determine how much you need to replace your full-time income. What do you need to do to quit that full-time job? And we're going to talk about putting systems in place. So in setting up your business right, you've got the legal stuff. Pick a name for your business. That's going to be your DBA, and set up a EIN number, and that's a tax ID number. Decide if you're going to be a sole proprietorship or form an LLC or form an S Corp. Register with your state. Register for sales tax. Even though eBay is collecting sales tax for most or all the states now and remitting it to those states, you still have to register with your state. You still have to do the paperwork. For me, it's once a year. And then I just have to put down that eBay is collecting and remitting the sales tax. But you still have to do that part. Maybe get business liability insurance, workers' comp if you're going to hire employees. Open a business bank account with that business name that you created. And talk to an accountant. The first year that I was selling on eBay as a full-time income, I tried to do the taxes myself, and it was really torturous, just trying to make sure I was doing everything right. An accountant will give you a free consultation. They're up on the current tax laws every year. So it'd be good to at least consult with them and see what you can write off legally. And I was really surprised that it was really economical when it actually cost me less when I had an accountant do my taxes that first year. And think about an accounting system. Before I did get married and work at that Fortune 500 company, I was working for a woman who had her own business. It was a sole proprietorship. I worked for her since I was 18 years old for 15 years. And I did her accounting on QuickBooks. So when I thought, I'm going to do eBay as a business, I thought, I know how to use QuickBooks. Now that I have a business, I'll do QuickBooks for me. And that was really awesome that I already knew how to use it. But it's also very easy to learn, and it's a great way to know where you're at. You can create profit and loss reports every month, and you can have a clear picture of what you're doing. And now QuickBooks integrates really well with eBay. Okay, now for the fun stuff. We're done with all that harder stuff. So now, what are you gonna do to be successful? And I've had people ask me, like, what do you attribute your success to? And I feel like they were expecting, like, because I care or because I love it. And that's not what I attribute my success to. That's why I love my job. But my success is because I see the house payment, what I need. I know what my goals are. And then every day I'm thinking about and working toward making that goal happen. And so write down what you need to make per month, and then break that down to weekly. What do you need to make a week? What do you need to make daily? And activity, what do you need to do activity-wise to reach your goals? This is something that I'm really grateful, and why I even mentioned that I worked for a Fortune 500 company, because they knew exactly what we needed to do every day. And we would have a stand-up meeting at the end of each day and say, Sherry, how many calls did you make? How much did you do? And it's a check-in on, are you doing the activity that you're supposed to be doing each day? So as my own boss, I knew that I had to know what I needed to be doing every day. And measure your actual sales against your goals, and then tweak what you need to reach your goals. Create a plan. Start with how much money you need per month. Divide that by 4.2, which is the average weeks per month, so that you have your weekly goal. And if you work 5 days a week, divide that by 5. Divide your weekly goal by 5 so you know your daily goal. And create your goals spreadsheet. So I love using spreadsheets. So I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. Okay, so in column A, you put your monthly goal. I put $5,000 profit here that I needed to make. In column B, put your average net profit per item, and I'm going to show you how to find that number later. Column C is the number of items that you're going to need to sell at that average profit per item to reach your goal. So the formula is A2, which is that $5,000, divided by B2, the $20, and that equals 250 in this case. In column D, put your actual number of sold items. I have 200 here. Column E is the formula C2 divided by D2. So it's 250, the number of items I need to sell, divided by D2, the actual number of items I sold. It's 1.25. So I need to do 125% more. I need to do 1/4 more than 200 to make it 250. I'm trying to make numbers fun because they're fun for me, because they give me the peace of knowing that I know what I need to be doing. Column F is your listing goal. So if you need 250 items to sell, you need to list 500 items. Now here's where you need to know what your sell-through rate is. So if I list 500 items, are 500 items going to sell in a month? Only if the sell-through rate is 100%. 100% of the items I list sell per month. If it's not 100%, then you need to list more than the number that you need to sell. And we'll talk more about that. And then column G is how much you need to list per day to make that monthly listing goal. Okay, track your activity. At the end of the day, have your stand-up meeting with yourself or a family member or your partner, and measure your activity next to the goals that you set. How much did you actually list? How much were you supposed to list? How much profit did you produce in the listings that you listed that day? Okay, so you're also going to need to know your average sale price per item, and we'll talk about where to find that. We're going to talk about it right now because eBay has a report on Seller Hub, and this is your sales performance report. Here, you can see that my average sale price per item is $88.07. Now, I know that 30% is my profit margin. So I know that my average profit per item is $26, but I put in 25 just to make it a clean round number. And you're gonna need to know what your average profit per item is. So do you sell on consignment? Then what is your commission rate? Or do you buy and resell? What is your markup? So that's gonna be your profit per item. Once you know your profit per item, how many items do you need to sell per day? So note your time also. How many items do you list in an hour? This is gonna vary based on the item. I mean, it takes me a lot longer to list a set of 30 dishes than it takes me to list a bracelet. Once you know how many items you need to list per day, you can decide if an item is worth listing. Can you list enough of these items to reach your goal? I can't. Let's say my profit per item is the $25 per item, and I need to make $250 a day. So I need to list 10 of those items. I need to sell 10 of those items a day. And if my sell-through rate is 50%, I need to list 20 of them per day. I can't list 20 sets of dishes a day. So this is what you want to be thinking about as you're sourcing items. And how many hours do you need to list to make your goal? What items do you need to source to make your goal? Increasing your average selling price per item or decreasing the amount of time that it takes to list those items and ship those items is going to be your magic formula to making your goal. Measure and modify. I have a spreadsheet where I record my actual daily profit before I start shipping. So when I'm looking at my awaiting shipment screen, before I get motivated to go shipping, I let myself do one fun thing, which is actually something I need to be doing every day. And I look at what was my profit for that day. So eBay has your total sales on your awaiting shipment screen. There's a little I next to that number. Click on that number, and that will show you your actual net sales rather than including sales tax in that number. So once you click on the I, you look at your actual net sales, and then let's say it's $1,000. I know my average profit is 30%. So I just made $300 that day. And I record that on a spreadsheet so I know how much did I make that day. And at the end of the week, I can total those 5 days and see, did I make my weekly goal? And at the end of the month, did I make my monthly goal? On that same sheet, at the end of the day, and I have help that I have hired, I like hiring students, I look at what did we list in profit for the day, and I put it on the same sheet. So how many sales do you need to make your goal? And if you're not making your goal, you might need to change what you're listing. So you're just constantly looking at it so you can tweak it. If you're making $10 per item, how many do you need to sell per day to make your goal? Well, if your goal is $250 a day, then you need to sell 25 items a day if your profit is $10 per item. How much time does that require, and is it feasible? Okay, so in deciding what to sell, think about how much time will this type of item require, and how much profit is this item going to produce, and how much room is it going to occupy, and while I'm storing it, how long is it going to take to sell? What is the conversion rate? And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about sell-through rate. So you can use Terapeak, which I use all the time and in Seller Hub, to find out what your sell-through rate is. And what is the sell-through rate? Out of the amount of those items that are listed, and let's say there's 100, if 10 have sold in 90 days, the sell-through rate in 90 days is 10%. You can also figure out the sell-through rate by looking up your item on eBay's active listings. So let's say there's 50 on eBay's active listings, and then you click on the sold and you see that 25 sold, the sell-through rate is 50%. What is your winning combination? Find out what mix of items that you want to sell to reach your goal. And people ask me what I sell, and since I sell on consignment, I kind of sell everything under the sun, from California pottery vintage deer figurines to right now I have a commercial meat tenderizer listed. And the meat tenderizer is going to have a large profit margin, and the figurines, I can sell a lot of them in a day. So you want to have that right combination, and you might want to specialize. I specialize in selling other people's stuff. In order to scale, you're going to need to have a system in place. Document your listing flow. We create drafts. I'm really fast at creating drafts. And then we place the items on a table, and then I have one of my workers take the pictures of that item. They open the draft, and I love eBay's new listing tool because they can open the draft on a laptop, click import from mobile, take the pictures with the cell phone that I have assigned for the pictures, and then add the pictures really fast. And Troy in particular, one of my workers over the summer who went back to high school in August, he could knock out 10 or more listings in an hour in adding the pictures. So you want to have this streamlined and have a system. Set up an inventory system. When I was doing everything myself, I knew where I put everything in our spare room. And I knew who I was selling it for. I didn't need a system. When I first was going to hire my first person in 2008, I thought, oh wait, how is she going to know where this item is if she has to go find it and ship it? And that's when I realized I needed a system. So you need to have some kind of an inventory system. So I have a number that I put in the custom label field on the listing tool, and that has what client I'm selling it for, an item number that goes on the item on blue painter's tape, so it'll come back off, and a location code. And that location code is what shelf and what bin on the shelf that the item's located in. So you need a system where if you weren't there, someone else could come in and be able to find the stuff and know what to do. Designate an eBay listing space. So when we did live in the Bay Area, we had a 1,400 square foot house, and we listed it on the kitchen table. I had trifold presentation boards where we took the pictures on that table, and we were doing the shipping at the bar. And then we just put it all away at the end of the day, and we were storing the items in the spare rooms. Well, since then, I did move to Colorado, and turns out when you buy a house in Colorado, sometimes you get a free unfinished basement. And now I have tables set up and racks and bins on the racks. So you want to have your workspace set up, even if it's something you start up and tear down every day because it's in the middle of your kitchen. So here you can see us optimizing our space. So we had racks against that back wall that you see in this time-lapse video, and my illustrious college student working for me said if we face those racks together, we can put another one at the end, which was brilliant, and I never would have thought of it. Optimize your space. Once you know how long in setting up your system that it takes you to list an item, then you know how many things that you need to list per hour, so you know what kind of items you can take based on how long they're going to take you. And you also know how long you expect your workers to be able to list per hour, and you want to let them know and give them tips on listing similar things one after the other to create efficiency. So hiring help is that next step in scaling up, because you can only do so much yourself. And that's where you need your systems in place, and you need to be a good delegator and a good mentor and manager in what should this person be listing. I'm so excited when like Jake said, oh, I golf, so I'm like, here's the golf clubs, you list these. Make sure that you're working efficiency and always work toward it every day. I like hiring students because I give them flexible hours around their school, and then it's flexible for me too, because I don't always know I'm going to have enough for a full-time person. Plus, I really like kids, and it turns out the teenagers are fun too. So train your employees and train them well, and then that gives you freedom, not only freedom to do other things or work on your business, but also to grow your business and hire the right people. I was so miserable at the Fortune 500 company, not because of working hard, because I work hard now, but it's because I'm so happy now because I'm my own boss. I get to decide who I work with, how I work, and what kind of environment I want to create. And we work hard, but we work fun. We have fun, and it's a fun environment. Set goals for your employees, and when they reach those goals, celebrate. Establish your work schedule. Now you're your boss, so you need to block out your time on what you're going to do when. Otherwise, the eBay process could consume you. So you might be running around putting out fires if you don't plan your time. So on my calendar, I have blocks of time, list this and that, have this person do that, ship during this time. And I also block out what the employees are going to be doing. So being your own boss means you get to make your own schedule, but it also means you need to be a good employee for your boss, yourself. And by sticking to your schedule, you reach your goals. And sourcing is key. Sourcing better and marketing more so you can get better items is also how you're going to reach your goal. For me, since I sell on consignment, it means going to local networking groups. It's like the chamber mixers. That way I meet local professionals and they can refer me to people. And if you're buying and reselling, it might mean putting ads on social media that these are things that you'll buy. Say no to items that will take your time without helping you reach your goal. Listing an item that's going to make you $3 might be the thing that keeps you from reaching your goal. And whether you're buying and reselling or selling on consignment, you always need to be sourcing, marketing, so that you can refine the items that you're taking so that you're more profitable and you can reach your goal by working a little less. So work smarter. And I have been shipping internationally from the very beginning because I just still created the label through eBay. They always made it easy. I love eBay standard international shipping because first of all, it actually seems to be the least expensive, comes with $100 of insurance, and it's all through eBay. So if there is an issue or a buyer's wondering where their item is, I find it to be the easiest way for the whole process. I'm shipping items internationally every day. Our sales are 10 to 20% of our sales are international. We ship to over 80 countries, and we do have this map in our workspace. So every time we get a new country, we run over to put a pin cushion or a push pin in the new country that we've shipped to. And I tell the teenagers, like, whoever finds this country first gets $20, and I compete because I'm trying to find it first, and I normally don't win, but I'm actually trying. So enjoy the rewards of being your own boss. You get to choose. What do you want to sell? Who do you want to work with? And how do you want to spend your time? Prioritize what's most important to you and enjoy knowing that you did this. I knew that when I quit my job, it was because we needed a better quality family time, and starting eBay was so that I could have my own schedule, be my own boss, and really be present for my family. And as it turned out, my husband was diagnosed a couple years after I started selling on eBay with multiple sclerosis. And through the years, and then a few years later, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was with him every step of the way. And I had my eBay business helping pay the bills. So not only was I able to bring in an income, I was there for every doctor's appointment and for every step with my husband. And I'm forever grateful for eBay for this. And that's what matters. You get to live your life doing what's important to you. You can do this.